In Jawai's cyber world, we see Gutsmen fighting the World 3 Navis, and actually appearing to do decently against them, evading their attacks and even countering some of them. I'll say, you didn't even need to cast anti-fire to do that. And thus, Gutsman and Dekao just soloed all the World 3 Navis? What? No, seriously, that was my response when I watched this as a kid. Just, what? Gutsman is consistently an easy boss, so for Dekao to clear all the Battle Network 1 main antagonists on his own, the kid's leveled up. And it turns out he did it by, since he moved to Jawai, this is apparently where his other parent works, working part-time at Maha Niban and training under the World 3 agents, all to get back at Netto. Because some rivalries never die. Netto. Does he think he's Arnold Schwarzenegger circa the early 2000s now? Cause you kinda need to work out a lot for that. Also, how did he hide behind that standee? He is wider in both relevant dimensions than that. But yeah, training under the World 3 agents has kind of turned Dekao into a jerk. It's been 2 months, if that. I admit, while the first season conclusively took place over the course of a year, and the game series decisively takes place over the course of 2 years fully, Battle.works 1 through 3 being 1 year, and 4 through 6 being the other, but beginning with Axess, the show kind of starts to move over a sliding time scale, and that Netto, Mail, and Dekao are all supposed to be 6th graders right now, but them being in 6th grade lasts until the end of Beast Plus. That is at least 3 years of an anime series that purportedly takes place in 1 year, meaning he can't have left more than a month ago. Granted, that is all the future show's problem. Right now, Dekao is showing himself as a massive jerk that isn't endearing Mail to being affectionate to him. Thus, it's down to trying to thrash Netto in a net battle, using to his advantage everything World 3 has taught him. And jump cut to... Yeah, no, back in Jawai, the World 3 group are grateful that Dekao has finally left. Dekao barged in there begging for training, and then was not a help in running the place at all, but instead a nuisance to doing their work with how he would screw it all up. Thus, that earlier training session where he thrashed them, yeah, that was all a mock battle where they faked defeat. Impressive considering Dekao pulled off a same chip type program advance on them, which usually means they hit for massive damage. And those time bombs are actually dead useful depending on whether the chip type fits in your folder. But yeah, it's grudge match time. With them taking it to the arcade, right up until Netto gets a net saver call as a Darkloid's been spotted at the Akihara gym, with someone screwing with its ventilation and gas systems, turning the place into a super sauna. Which is, of course, the domain of Burnerman.exe, the second actual Battle Network 4 Navi we get in this season, with him ready to snipe the stratosphere with his flames or burn everything to the ground with rapid fire. And for those who don't get the in-joke, in Japanese, Burnerman is voiced by Shinichiro Miki, who played Lock-on Stratos in Gundam 00, whereas in English he's voiced by Richard Ian Cox, who voiced Alleluia Haptism in Gundam 00. I did not expect both actors for Alleluia to have worked on this show. Then again, there was a time when Richard Ian Cox was all over a lot of series that were produced and dubbed in Canada, both in live-action and animation ADR work. He really was that ubiquitous to the airwaves in the 2000s between Kai Shiden and Toho Koeng in Gundam 0079 and Seed, respectively, on top of being Alleluia, Quicksilver in X-Men Evolution, Big Cloud in Zoid's New Century Zero, once again amusing because of the Studio Zebek connection, and the Rumiko Takahashi characters Inuyasha and Ranma Saotome, with him even reprising his role as Inuyasha for the recent Yashahime series. And if I wasn't seeing him in the anime I was watching those years, then he was in the sci-fi I was watching as well. The dude's still around and active on social media too, but he has less time to actually dedicate to voice acting, as he actually became a high school acting department teacher situated in Vancouver and British Columbia, where, coincidentally, several of his voice acting compatriots and co-workers for these shows graduated from. I'd say life's funny like that, but looking up the details on Canada's actor stable and where the good actors have been trained, well, it's a smaller range than you might think, and more recent talent from up north might actually have been trained by him at some point. What? I find details like this fascinating, and that's not even getting into all the cool stuff Shinichiro Miki is known for, with Burnerman being another step up the climb of his career. Case in point, he also voiced Charizard. Anyways, yeah, Burnerman. Yeah, I am in my 30s, and I still squee at how cool this character is portrayed in both iterations of the show. As again, they stopped the revisionist dub stuff with this season, and the way both actors play into the arrogant mannerisms of the character in divergent ways is just so good. Shinichiro Miki giving the presentation of that line as if they were stating an absolute fact that it would be foolish to deny, while Richard Ian Cox's version gave the impression that Burnerman has a massive chip on his shoulder. And both iterations are absolutely true to the character. And yeah, Burnerman's not giving them the time for them to get a beat on him. Escaping in a toy fighter plane? Okay, me reviewing the show keeps doing that, where it unintentionally alludes to or references something made after it, or an actor involved in it would later star in. What is with that? But yeah, Dekao gets sucked into this, and interferes with Rockman's attempts to face Burnerman. And this would be much simpler if he knew what was going on. And sure enough, Mail lets him in on the NetSaver thing, since she does know about the whole mess, once more informing that Netto's insistence on keeping it secret is rather dumb, as is the other writer's insistence on casting Netto as a moron when he's being shown to be pretty damn diligent, responsible, and smart when Kenichi Araki is actually writing him, as is happening with this episode. Dekao actually coming to realize, with this talk, how huge a jerk he's been, and what he's now enabled to happen thanks to Burnerman getting away. After all, his friends almost died several times in the previous World 3 and Gospel incidents. So for him to enable a rogue Navi to potentially cause that to someone else? Well, suddenly, it looks like I'm the asshole, is what he's likely telling himself. That is, if he wasn't so obsessed with getting his match. But at least he's going to hold back until the chase for Burnerman is over with. Unfortunately, however, well, Burnerman has revived an old strategy of Fireman's. Namely, set everything on fire. And he does this by going to the region's natural gas main and setting the entire pipe network on fire. Which, yeah, is actually possible, but only up to a point. Natural gas is actually rather localized in its distribution. Energy companies drill deep into the Earth's surface at various points to find a vein, which usually is similar to hunting for oil. And when they find one, they cap it, build a facility capable of storing that gas emission, and then uncap that pipe so that gas fills a storage tank. That is then connected to a gas pipe network, which is in turn pumped right to your home. If the storage facility has a fire start at it, then it is plausible that the fire could then travel down the pipe network, but it's rather unlikely, as if a fire starts at the source, then the pressure is likely to leave the pipes that send the gas down them. And explosions and flames like to follow a path of least resistance with regards to their combustion. It's actually why it's possible to survive being in an explosion if you're below where the explosion occurs. Plus, these days, a lot of Japanese homes have gone fully electric, but that might not have been true 20 years ago. Where this gets silly is just how every pipe erupts as if there was a gas leak that someone struck a match in front of. That's clearly more ridiculous, as you need an ignition source to be able to trigger that, which, short of Burnerman flooding an area with gas and then triggering an electrical fire, which again, it is possible, it ain't gonna happen like that. However, by the time Netto reaches it, Burnerman's already long gone, having set a trap at a secondary storage facility, which Dekao, trying to make up for earlier, trips, him being surrounded by flames. But the advantage of training against a pyromaniac is you get used to being in flames. However, it's here where Dekao is finally tipped off to how easy World 3 actually went on him, as he can't even touch Burnerman, who is too agile and just sadistically toys with him before deciding to just put him out of his misery. At least until Rockman comes in for the save. However, Burnerman shows his arrogant sadism by springing the true trap he set for them, as the secondary gas facility has had its connective pipes weakened, and Burnerman ignites them, causing the tanks to start spinning, leaving Dekao and Netto to lose their footing, and with such, all of Netto's Aqua Elemental battleships being knocked out of his pack. See, Burnerman's pretty cool when you're not facing him. Cool design, cool attitude, cool attacks, and you'll certainly be feeling cool after he leaves you with 5th degree burns after referring to him as cool so much. Yes, 4th and 5th degree burns are a thing. The victims to them are commonly dead after they receive them, but they are a thing. Surprisingly, the facility hasn't exploded after this burn started. It's just slowly making its way across the landscape as the jet burn isn't enough to lift its weight. Yeah, I actually looked this up, and after hitting a dozen subscriber paywalls to news archive sites, yeah, it is getting that bad on that matter. I found that, yes, older natural gas storage facilities were built with enough insulation that a fire could potentially do this and set a tank flying off like a rocket, and the designs of those facilities was the conceptual basis for some rocket engine designs you see for spaceships, both conceptually and in real life, and also commonly in fiction. But that is also why more modern storage tanks for volatile chemicals and flammable gases are now cylinders that don't look as strongly constructed. See, the modern ones are deliberately built with structural weak points along their roofs, so if a tank would ignite, then the explosion would then blow off the roof and release its force upwards, instead of going down and tearing the tank itself off the ground, as that could lead to even more damages and loss of life, by the entirety of the tank becoming a threat as opposed to just the roof of a tank being blown off. That actually happened at a California fuel facility in October of 2019, where a tank of ethanol actually got crossed with another volatile chemical it reacted with and set off an explosion, which was right next to a tank full of jet fuel. The only reason the facility wasn't flattened by a chain reaction occurring was the tank blowing its lid off allowed the fire to burn itself out without it spreading at all, as all of its force was directed upwards instead of to the sides or down. And yeah, the two are trapped up here until it burns itself out, but Dekao and Gutsman nonetheless back them up, as they're not going to allow anyone else to beat their oldest rival, once more permitting a unison of souls. And with Gutsman's strength added to Rockman's agility, well, Burnerman's been one punched out of battle with a rocket punch, letting the burn of the tanks reach its end. The group get down for the tanks, Dekao realizing that if he truly wants to fight Netto as his equal, he still has a long way to go, and will wait for his chance after Netto finishes his task of defeating the Dark Void threat. Though unfortunately, Dekao's going to have to wait a long time until that actually occurs. The wrap-up. As this is a battle-heavy episode, I'm loving the variety of chips this one showed, and again all to the series' strength, with a lot of dynamic types of action that once more presents the strengths of this arc. We have, "You changed, man, you used to be cool," to Dekao taking a walk on the dark side, because they had cookies. We have anime time-skip training arc to Dekao and Gutsman. Man, those 2 weeks training really made a difference. We have Hothead for Burnerman, and his forehead that he can literally set on fire. And we have Way to Break It, Hero, to Dekao once more unintentionally endangering everyone with his obsession to beat Netto. Priorities, dude. With my mounting frustration in the last couple episodes at members of the writing staff digging in their heels and not getting with the program in regards to the story's progression, having Araki come back to write about where the hell Dekao's been, and will be going back to and from for the foreseeable future, and how that's affected him was quite, well, effective. Especially with him coming in blind to the new status quo. Well, that the guy can finally use program advances himself is also quite an improvement, even if his Giga Time Bomb ends up not being useful in the end. Which again is baffling, as I've killed bosses with those things in the past. And with such a serious sadistic threat as Burnerman's introduction in this episode, even if this weren't a progress check episode due to Guts Soul being obtained here, I'd still recommend this one hard with how perfectly balanced the action, character pieces, and drama are. And it is one that will be followed up on soon enough.